We're good?
Thanks.
We're good. I just
Support
unmuted
you how
us.
you did.
Exactly.
You unmuted us?
Yes, just now. It's great.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We'll be official. With one of these again. So, we got a couple presentations today and, we should have a really good meeting. And, I think Isabel wanted to do a welcome message.
Yeah.
For everybody.
So, as you know, I'm the executive director at the Regional Planning Council. I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm stepping in for Bailey Lazzaroni, who's our new LEPC coordinator. Here with Sarah and Vice Chair Brown or Welch. It's gonna be great. But I just want to welcome you back. And you know, this is your house. We get there's coffee and waters for you, anything that you need. Please let us know. I also want to introduce to you again, Alicia Lopez. She's a great member of our council staff, and she's going to also be supporting them.
No pressure, Alicia. No pressure.
We'll see if the Zoom goes well, you pass. No, I'm just playing. Please a reminder, please make sure to sign in on the sign-in sheet, because that's actually a contract requirement for the LEPC. So we just want to make sure that you guys are all properly noted.
Well, let's get the meeting, kicked off, all right? And, stand up and we'll do our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence for all our public, private officials that are dedicating their lives or have lost their lives here and abroad. Thank you. So, on that sad note, something we thought may be appropriate just for all the work he's done, not only in the fire service, but contributing to emergency management and public safety overall. We had a big loss in the fire service last month with Captain Bill Gustin passing away, and he's a gentleman that had over 50 years in the fire service, starting out as a volunteer in Chicago, and I think 47 years in Metro-Dade, which really does not encapsulate who he was as a man. You know, with the fire guys in this room, I'm sure just about all of us can say Bill touched us at one point in our lives, and he was a huge mentor for me. And even all the way up to, not that he was a big fan of it, but the lithium ion momentum in training of firefighters, just to get everybody prepared for some of the challenges with lithium ion. He was one of the definite flag bearers for that and getting that training started off early on. So we just wanted to mention you know, our sad loss with Captain Gustin and best wishes for his family. So let's do it. Roll call is next up.
Okay, Amy Hernandez, Ray Pacheco. And you, Alicia, if you could help me if they're on there.
Yeah, Amy is online.
Elaine Dondres. You see, let me just put A's here. Ahmed Navarrete. Alvaro Bonanes, I don't have to practice his names, Bonanes. Bonanes. Okay. See Chief around here. Charles Langford. Richard Whitehurst. Craig Morstan.
I'm Julie Hebeyer. I'm standing in for Craig Marston. He's at a Board of County Commission meeting this morning.
Dan Scarborough.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, good, there's Steve. All right, thank you. Duran Ramkissoon.
Present.
Okay, great, thank you. Doug Levi. The Valley.
Unless he's online, I don't see Doug.
Luis Valdez is alternate. Okay. Eduardo Penning.
Present, he put in the chat, Isabel, that he's present.
Okay, so he's first present, great. Francisco Frank Japanetta.
Yes.
Oh, nice to meet you. Gabriel Sahora.
Right here.
and, Jason Weber. Or Tiffany Brown Francis. Jamie Johnson. Greg Namath. James Russo. Here. That's you. Jesus Olivo. Victor Roman.
Right.
Thank you. Joseph De Luna.
Alternate Sigfredo Vasquez.
Oh, great, thank you. Josh Green. Sarah Wagner. Julio Tejeda.
Here.
Hi, Julio. Dunia Arana. Mario Hope. Kayla Puella. Keith Weston. Chris Runty.
Here,
Janet.
Keith Weston's here.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Kenneth Yost. Virginio Gallardo. Mikhail Garcia. Marcelo Garcia. Jose Tovar. Marie Sullen.
She's virtually present.
Okay, great, thank you. Sure.
That-
Mark Moore. Thank you, Marie. Mark Moore. Natasha Stroken. Martha Bayan. Oriana Gonzalez. John Hines. Chief Oscar Rodriguez. Pete Schechter. 30 feet. Peter Hamlin. Charles Grigley. Oh, there's Mr. Hamlin. Okay, great, thank you. Shannon Davis Weiner, I think she's joining us a little later. Okay, and then you know, Vince Kelson.
Peter
William,
Hamlin's here.
okay, thank you. Jamila Luxman. Yvette McLeod.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Stephanie Alum. I'm gonna share that can. We can do a roll call.
So thank you for bearing with us. It's quite a project to get the roll calls. And it, as Isabel said, it is a legal requirement for us. So on that note, an action item, I need a motion to approve in a second the minutes from the February 19th South Florida LAPC meeting. That the minutes were attached to your agenda email. From invitation. We have a motion. And we have a second. So the minutes are approved from the February 19th South Florida meeting 2025. So vacancies and enhancing participation. We do have some membership changes. Oriana Gonzalez as a member, John Hines now as the alternate for Cliff Ferry. Josh Green as the member, Chief Tara Wagner, who got promoted, alternate for the City of Miramar Emergency Management. Amy Hernandez as member, Clay Pacheco as the alternate, Broward County Emergency Management. Jesus Olivo, member, Victor Roman, alternate, Brentag Facility Owners and Operators. Keila Puello, member, Miami-Dade Wastewater and Sewer Department, and Dan Scarborough, member. Martha Mikey Gonzalez as the alternate for Miami-Dade County Emergency Management. So one thing that was brought up at the LEPC, the chair meeting when we were up at CERC last month, was a challenge to the local LEPCs to find different ways to engage our membership. I know meetings are meetings and, you know, they have a little bit of a dryness to them, but throughout the year, I think last year we did a very good job because we had some very high profile, projects. Number one, including the presentation update that you're gonna get today. Shannon will remind you guys of our big project of last year, which was updating, the hazmat emergency response plan, which is a document that hadn't really been, really dug into deeply in quite a long time. And then we did some really good things with funding to supply our hazmat responders with some new software that Brian will talk about a little bit later. But really what the challenge was to try to get the working groups, the groups of everybody, you know, and instead of just coming once every 3 months for a meeting or logging on, to find different ways of engagement. So with that, I'm gonna follow my rule of kind of throwing some stuff out there and throwing the idea out there, you know, generally. And a lot of times when you empower your group to come up with ideas and follow along, the results you get are a lot better than what you have even thought of envisioning. So with that, if anybody has any ideas, some suggestions on what we should be involved in, I know one of the things that we wanted to do, we just had some changes here on the staff side, was try to move these meetings around, like we did the meeting in Monroe, and I definitely would like, I know DOT wanted to host a meeting, we want to try to definitely get into the different areas and get some other people and some new faces engaged. But that's something that we should probably circle back to, once we have everything kind of realigned here, and with Haley taking over the coordinator position, we should be back on our feet here. But honestly, any type of suggestion is welcome. And one of the things that make the meeting go a little bit better and getting the information out there for the LEPC, that's one of our biggest challenges, is trying to educate people about the LEPC. Any ideas for presentations? Today we have two. But moving forward, any of that stuff would be greatly appreciated. Or, you know, anything that you guys have, definitely circle back with us. And that was the challenge. So challenge accepted from the LEPC chair of chairs. That was the big message, and trying to keep everybody engaged and work on some innovative projects. So for presentations, Shannon Maharaj is the technical writer that really did a lot of work on that hazmat emergency response plan. And I'm not going to steal her thunder. And I know that you guys have had a presentation from her before. I think she just wants to give us a quick update. But I will do this, because looking at her title, I don't think I've ever read all her accomplishments here. And I've got quite a program here in front of me. So here's Shannon's, a little bit about Shannon. Emergency Management Planner and Aerospace Defense Technical Publication Specialist for Boeing, Master of Professional Studies, Emergency and Disaster Management, Georgetown University. And the May 2025 Hazardous Material Response Plan update, she was recognized at that CERC for the work that she did and the work that was done by this group. And you know, the review that we did of the emergency response plan to make this document a lot better document. So she's got a couple credentials. Oh, yes. So as you can imagine, she's working for Boeing. She is definitely an aviation fan. So she just recently got to ride in a C-130 and accompanied by the Blue Angel show. So she was up in the air. Wow. Riding around while they were doing all their stuff in Fort Lauderdale.
Look at her smile.
There she is. Is she blushing? Because she does not like accolades. Yep. So with that, Shannon, actually, hold on, is that next? Yeah, we'll get to you in a minute. So, what time is it? 10:15.
Oh, she's ready.
Are you ready, Shannon? Would you like to go now? She's always ready. We'll do it right before the chair's report, just fit her right in. Perfect. I believe she is diligently at work and took some time out of her day just to do this. So we'll get her on the roster. Let's do that. I turn it over to you, Shannon. or I should say Alicia will.
Good morning. Hi, Chiefs. I'm so happy to be here again. I'm so happy to see familiar faces. Wow, it's been quite some time since I've presented, but I am here to give a very quick and brief verbal update about the HMERP. So when I last presented back in February, the main theme, and this is continuing into this quarter and future revisions to the plan, the main theme is trying to turn words into pictures. And the reason that's so important is, yes, we have a page limit set for the HMERP, which is 60 plus any annexes that are attached. But when you are out on the field trying to, even for a condensed plan, when you're trying to find the information that you need in a timely manner, because remember, facility owners only have 15 minutes to report any sort of incident. I think it's important to have visuals so that way, if you're taking a glance at a particular section of the HMERP, it should be able to convey information within seconds. That's the goal that I'm setting for myself is we have all this information. Can we turn it into a graphic? Can we turn it into flowcharts, maps? Any sort of visual component would really help with the usability testing. And as Chief Russo mentioned, that there is the FEMA NEP, the National Exercise Program that's happening this year, this November. That will really test how well the visuals work for both first responders and facility owners. So that's the major update for this quarter, is working towards transforming paragraphs into images. And I think in doing so, the page count will also shrink. But it is important to note that 60-page cap will remain. However, it is a goal of mine to see if we can condense this even further. And the importance of the HMERP, as Chief Russo mentioned, well, Chair Russo now, as Chair Russo mentioned, it's a document that's used by both facility owners and first responders. It has not been touched since I took on the project in late 2023. And it's been through several revisions between myself, stakeholders, and other interested parties. It's a work in progress for sure. It's definitely taken me a couple years to get it to the spot that it is right now. And even then, there's still always room for improvement. But I do want to reiterate the importance of this plan is that it is being used out in the field, and it was not touched for years. It accumulated into 219 pages. Ask me how I know that, because I've had to comb through all 219 pages. So I know the total amount that the 2023 version had, but it's important because this document is being used, and not only is it being used, it was selected by FEMA itself to be tested for its usability. And so moving forward with the information that we get, looking ahead into November, we'll have a really, really good document because we'll have usability feedback from the people that use the document. So my major update for you all is that I'm working towards getting this document ready for stakeholder review. And as Chair Russo mentioned, I have been juggling school. School just finished for me, and I've also been juggling work. So I'm hoping to really dive back into this document within the next weeks or so. And I think I just want to reiterate, super important document. It is used, and I think every document at some point should go through this process. And in the long term, it is going to help our first responders, LEPC, and facility owners and operators be more diligent about hazardous material incidents for the region. So that's my whole spiel. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Shannon. Tireless efforts, and I can't even begin to imagine how many hours she's accumulated working on this. And we're still around the 70-page mark, correct?
Yes, actually right now, I think it's 45 pages, and that's not even with me really going into transforming the words into images yet. So as it stands, the 2024 version was, I think, 45 pages. So
70 from, maybe that was with the annexes or something. Or I think we
it's
wanted,
with the annexes, probably. So just to confirm for anyone that may be confused, the actual document itself will be no more than 60 pages. However, there has to be information that's attached, and it's called an annex. So basically, an annex to me, how I perceive it, is that you can either keep it with the document or it could be its own standalone. So that's why if you do get a version of the HMERP and you're thinking, why is it more than 60 pages? There's probably annexes that have to be attached. Like, for example, in the 2023 version that I first looked at, there's a list of all the facilities that have hazardous materials in it, and that just spans like 12 pages, but it has to be in there because you need to know the locations and where these facilities are across all 3 counties. So there's really no easier way to condense that information. It has to be attached to the plan, but just know that annexes can also be their own standalone document. So 60 pages for the actual content itself of the HMERP, and then the actual PDF that you all receive might look like it's larger, but it's just those annexes attached to it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the clarification. And again, this is one of those documents that it is a legal requirement that they get updated. And I think what happens over time is, every year there's a lot of stakeholders that say, oh, we got to do some kind of input. And so they add something or try to reorganize something. And then next thing you know, you've got 219 pages, which if any of us have ever been either out on a major incident or in an EOC, when it hits the fan, the last thing that you want to do is look through a document that's 219 pages. That's supposed to be, your guidance in your Bible, and try to figure that out. So kudos to everybody who's been working on that, and for all of you guys for giving the input back as she's been going along with this project. So a couple other things that are going on in the state. Again, there's Peter. Hello, Peter.
Sorry.
It's okay. We're just calling you out in front of everybody.
Hey, do it. Pile it on there.
We're just getting into it. We're just getting into it. So a couple of the things from the state training task force, which remember that's comprised of fire officials, stakeholders, and Florida Department of Emergency Management officials, and that's chaired by Chief Lamb, the fire chief for Cocoa Beach. One of the major projects that we've had for any of the projects, they call them project boxes. So one of the big initiatives over the last couple of years, and Peter's been very involved in it as well, is lithium ion. Whether we're talking about EV, whether we're talking about micromobility, some of the smaller stuff in transit, and I'm sure you guys have seen on the news, and probably tired of listening to me ad nauseum talk about lithium ion. But of course, it was brought up again. A couple things. We are number one. We participated in the live burn of the EV, which was a smaller battery leaf vehicle. That was a partnership between the training task force, the state Florida State Fire Marshal's office, and our locals, our regional stakeholders there, and And what we did as far as data collection really hasn't been done before, because everything that was collected by had to do with, number one, we wanted to see the effects on firefighters. So we've got some of those biometrics back. Also the atmosphere, both the air and the ground, and then bunker gear for contamination cleaning. And this was a true study that was done, an ethical study that was put out. And we did get some of the results from the biometrics, but the actual paper has not been published because these things take a lot of time to do them properly when you're dealing with these scientific studies. So talking with Dr. Kavan at it looks like we'll probably get some more information in April, but what I can tell you so far is, even though as part of being one of the guinea pigs from the fire team, we were on our full PPE, SCBA the entire time. I was probably the furthest away from the EV. And then another thing that we were evaluating were tactics and how to put these fires out. I can tell you that on the biometrics, both in the blood and gases, everything that they measured, you can definitely see a spike in contaminants. And I was probably, like I said, the furthest away from this car, and it was a relatively low power battery. So all the hype about the contaminants and the dangers or the possible dangers to civilians, to stakeholders, to firefighters, they are a real thing. But some of the data that we're gonna get is gonna be really good because as far, like I said, as far as the bunker gear, there were probably 30 or 40 swatches of bunker gear. We all had new bunker gear. They went to different cleaning methods so we could evaluate different cleaning methods. So before and after, even gross decontamination was measured. A lot of different stuff. So I will keep you guys posted on that. But what was talked about at this training task force is basically what do we do with end of life, right? So I know this has been an issue and been brought up before, and it's definitely a headache for the first responders that respond to these calls. So what was actually started up was another working group, which is going to be the lithium ion disposal work group. So what's going to happen there is really looking at end of life for these batteries for when you go to drop them off at either the Home Depot or whatever the retail establishment, how you're going to get rid of them. And really what should happen there for anybody that doesn't know is those should actually be brought to the local household hazardous waste sites. And those can be found if you contact FDEP. They can give you the ones that are in operation and also with, I think on the Broward County site, you can see what local ones are there. And I should remind everybody that there is a Broward County ordinance on lithium battery disposal and battery disposal in general, which was recently updated. I think it's a 13-page document. If you have insomnia, to give it a read. But honestly, it's got some really good information and kind of spikes your fears again on what does happen. Really what we have been seeing from the fire rescue side is number one, in transit, some of these batteries that have been thrown away into the general garbage. They do have, if they're damaged or not damaged, sometimes they can get damaged just by going through the process of getting tossed in a dump truck and compacted and ended up in the landfill. So they do go into thermal runaway. They are exposed to other different leaching things in that mixed commingled garbage. And we have had a definite uptick in incidents of, these types of fires from the batteries. So it's something that definitely needs to happen. I can tell you that it's such a problem that I got a call from the fire chief from BMW, who is doing a lot of EV fire training with his private personnel. And BMW was having trouble in finding where they were going to dispose their EV batteries. So if that doesn't tell you something, that there's a little bit of a problem, and manufacturers are asking for advice on where they're going to be able to dispose after doing training. There's definitely a problem and a potential issue there. So, what else did we have? Oh, there was one Thomas Yatabe Award, which was the same award that Shannon received, that a Lifetime Achievement Award, and that was given to Chief Murphy. If you've ever had the pleasure of meeting Chief Murphy from different part of the state, he always has something to say and contribute to all the state meetings, and usually very, very thought-provoking, and definitely a well-deserved award for him. Very humble gentleman. Of course, the first thing he did was say that he doesn't deserve the award, it goes to everybody else, but definitely deserving gentleman of the award. So with that, I will turn it over to Chief Brown, and we'll talk about some of the things that we've done this year as far as planning and training, some of the exercises, and if I need to throw in my 2 cents on any of these, I definitely will.
I will take it over. Are you chief now?
Yes, I am. Scary.
That's pretty scary. I'm moving, man. I'm changing. Just as a FYI for the battery stuff, if it helps people, NFPA has a new standard, NFPA 811. It's an active technical committee. If you're interested in understanding what it's about, it's supposed to cover the battery life cycle and affect manufacturers, users, end of life, disposal, and be a little bit more comprehensive to try to fill some of these gaps for all of us. Because nobody's doing that, and it's kind of like we're building the boat as we float it, or we're flying the airplane as we build it, so to speak. I'm an observer. I'm not on that technical committee, but if I have anything to share with the group, I will. You need to understand that even if you're not a member of an NFPA technical committee, if you have an interest, whether professionally or through your business or whatever, and you want to comment or weigh in, you're allowed to do that. That's encouraged. You don't have to be a member. You don't have a vote, but you can comment. And it's important that the stakeholder community, from transportation to the Coast Guard to enforcers to responders to environmental disposal, all weigh in on this stuff, because it's what's going to impact us. So NFPA 811, it's new. They just established the committee. It's just starting to work now, but keep an eye, and anybody is welcome to attend their meetings virtually or in person. Thank you.
That was 811.
Peter, do they have a timeline? Are they trying to get something out by 26, or they're not even that far?
I think they're looking to fast track it in the next year, but nothing, it's a glacier.
Yeah.
It moves really slow. Glacier's probably a bad term for us in Florida. It's 95 traffic at rush hour.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
It moves really slow, but now is the time. Like, if you have something that you want to see there, say something, because they need that expertise. They need people from the world to weigh in on this. They try to do a good job and make it balanced, but there's a lot of smarts around this room and a lot of good perspective, and I encourage you to get involved.
Excellent.
Sorry,
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Pete.
and I'm not moving. I trust you.
I love it when you lie to me.
All right, so for the planning and training working groups, there's not a lot of new information. We're ongoing with some of our projects. We'll updates to some of the projects that we have already completed. We have the PWD software that the LEPC has funded. It has been dispersed. All 3 counties, every special operations team in all 3 counties is now using that software. We're getting some good quality feedback. And there is going to be some in-person training from the vendor coming up, I believe. In addition to that, we hosted the Cliffberry responding to fuel tank truck incidents. That was back in February, the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And the purpose of that, some of the main objectives that we tackled there was grounding and bonding and transferring products. And then what we in the special ops in the first responder field call the hot tapping, where they're actually going to drill into that tank and make sure the sparks don't ignite the fuels. And so there's a little technique behind that. And then a lot of what we're really here for is that public and private information sharing. A lot of good opportunity for our first responders to kind of meet and greet with the utility companies and the people from Cliffberry. So that was conducted. That was a big success. That's going to go down as one of our deliverables, right? And as far as the planning, we are still planning for fiscal 25-26, the incident scenario at Port Everglades with the ethanol rail. And once again, that's going to be limited to Broward County Regional Special Operations personnel only. We'll do our best to get pictures, video, everything else for you guys. But because of the limited access in Port Everglades, not everybody is allowed to be there. So, but we're working with VSO's Chief Henbest on that over at Station 6, and that should be pretty in depth, I would guess. As for exercises, Chief Russo and I, we are still ongoing with the FEMA National Exercise Program, the tabletop exercise, and that is going to be the test for Ms. Shannon's hard work with the hazardous materials emergency response.
Don't tell people the scenario. Some people in this room might be might be involved in that.
All right, so
But it will test Shannon's hard work. And the only thing I'll add to that is working with FEMA. Oh, it got scary there for a couple minutes. We didn't know if because
when their flight got canceled.
they literally flew in, and we were the first ones to tell FEMA that they might be on the chopping block. So that was a fun day. But everything is moving forward. Everything is good with the tabletop, which is basically going to be held at the Hollywood EOC, and we'll keep everybody posted and get some stakeholders to participate and observe as well. But what we did do is take some of our training footage from various hazmat events that were applicable, and those are going to get reeled in. FEMA has a team that works on filmography and different things like that and media. So as we're sitting in the EOC for the tabletop, it's going to be augmented by some of the footage. So you'll have like some eyes and ears on, like you'd be watching a newscast and seeing what's going on remotely. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be,
When does
very
it
excited.
happen?
That's gonna be November. I believe November 5th is the go date right now. But as we move closer, we'll make sure everybody knows.
We have, our initial planning meetings were conducted already. We have our primary objectives plus our injects for the tabletop exercise. Our mid-cycle meeting is next week with FEMA. And then we'll hash out the details of the scenario and who exactly the players and observers, facilitators are. And then from there, we're planning on having everything finalized by October, ready to go for November. We'll have more information later this week.
You want me to talk about the ammonia?
Sure.
We were there.
Yeah, we did our public cold storage anhydrous ammonia, which we've done with the regional special operations teams, several times. We incorporated more of the LEPC coordinator and a little bit more from Region 10, Region 7 with the RDSTF. And if you wanna
Sure.
how that all went.
So, the former coordinator, Ms. Burke did a lot of, planning with this, and really what this was like Brian said, it's such a target hazard with all the ammonia that's on site. This is the Publix distribution center that's up in Deerfield Beach. Over 1 million square foot of, of cold storage. And I think that's an underestimation. Get walking around that building. Another thing that they do there is they also make all the milk jugs and containers and everything else that comes in pellet form, and they blow that stuff and template there. So between ammonia, diesel, and all the plastic, there's a couple target hazards that you could imagine, and being laid right next to I-95 in Southwest 10th Street, not to mention my house is in the plume. This is definitely something we want to do something for. So it was actually Ms. Burke that first reached out to TransCare, who helps provide training to agencies and to entities that want training. So that whole thing blossomed, and what it ended up being, I can tell you that Publix was a great partner. Airgas was a great partner. It ended up being over 15 agencies and stakeholders involved. Basically a 3-day drill. It was the same drill repeated over the fire service schedule, A, B, and C shift in Broward. So all 4 hazmat teams, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, and Boca del Rey, and really all the public-private, as Brian mentioned before. The private entities like Publix, they have their own response team. And, remember, it's not just if, it's a when with some of these type of incidents, and you hope it's minor. So the scenario, now that it's all over, we can talk about it freely, was basically they were receiving a shipment of the ammonia to restock the over, I think, 300,000 or 6 that they usually have there. So they had an 18-wheeler at hookup have a problem. The driver went down, and I could tell you, well, Isabel went to the drill one of the days with
Yeah,
me,
it was
so
great.
it looked very realistic.
We
because
did,
they-
we had our little vest, we were cool.
They have, we utilize the fog machines and everything else, so that not only we're setting up command, but, trying to do those interactions with dispatch, trying to do the interactions with the public-private teams and do a little recon. They had to do the rescue of the driver before, they got all their PPE together and their whole plan together. So it's a rescue plan, and then you kind of shift over and see what you're gonna do with the incident. So a lot of the takeaways there were just trying to upgrade communication and the pre-planning as always with public-private relationships. But I think all the teams did well. Honestly, as far as scenarios go, there weren't too many curveballs. It's just a mountain of things that need to be done when you get an incident of that scale, especially where it was at. So I think a lot of lessons learned. I know that Publix and Airgas had a lot of lessons learned on their side, and came out with some PIAs on it, and also did a lot of public outreach with it. The weather service was also involved, so there was a lot of good stuff that came out of those drills. And again, these are the types of things that I encourage everybody to be engaged in as an LEPC. These are the fruits of you know, coming to these meetings and putting in the hard work is going to stuff like
Do
that.
you think this is a unique occasion or this is something that they are expecting to do each?
At this scale, well, I can tell you for the 4 hazmat teams, I know that we do this annually as far as a walkthrough, and sometimes we do a hands-on on a smaller scale, drill type scale, not really exercise type scale. I would imagine that it's gonna be done again. I just don't know if we're gonna scale it up to the scale of it. There was a lot of planning that went into having everybody come down.
No, I'm thinking maybe it's useful to do the walkthrough that we do every year.
Mhm.
Or maybe have something like this each 3 or 4 or something.
Absolutely.
Like that, you know,
Absolutely.
because people change and you know, you have new players.
With the turnover, that's exactly what I was gonna bring up. With the fire service, one thing that you can always anticipate is people get promoted, people retire, people get assigned to teams, they leave teams. And there's always the youth that you're bringing up. So same thing on the private side. You know, as a matter of fact, there were changes in faces as we were doing the planning for this, you know, on the private side. So these things happen, and I would definitely suggest, from the special operations side to promote it and then to kind of keep it in our highlights here. And then we can make something like that happen again. If not that, something very similar. You know, maybe change up the scenario, do a little something, but you know, still have a lot of the same takeaways. I think it's very valuable. Even from the EM standpoint, it's really scaled out too. You have a question?
Will an AAR and improvement plan be shared?
So, funny you should ask, I actually tried to get a hold of that for this meeting. So the problem is right now, there's a couple different ones from the different stakeholders, so I will definitely, I guess from the private side, I'll have to see what can be released. But we'll definitely share what we can share. So I will say from the special ops side, it should be pretty easy for me to get with my contacts there and go through some of the bullets there. But from the private side, I'll just have to do some clearances and what they're willing to share, and we'll get that information. Absolutely. That's one of the big benefits of doing this, is trying to get the information out to everybody. So, absolutely. So that is that. What time you got, Brian?
Or it's 11.
Okay, so we still got a little bit.
I can do that. You see.
You want to do the LEPC report? Absolutely.
So thank you. I had the great pleasure of attending the SURF meeting, right here in Jacksonville. And, in St. Augustine. It's a great meeting. I found the conversation very interesting. And again, in the future, Haley will be attending. The next one is scheduled for Cocoa Beach in July, I believe.
Cocoa Beach in July.
That's right. I found the conversation of the lithium batteries particularly interesting because one of the advantages of working with the council is that we have other program areas that we can integrate into your conversation. So we have been having conversations with the directors of the solid waste management departments in Palm Beach, Broward and Miami-Dade. And so when we were having that conversation, one of the ideas that we had is that we need to make sure that we're integrating the solid waste management directors into the lithium work group. So there's a very nice synergy that happens, and we're happy to have done that. This was my first meeting, so I just listened a lot and deferred to the chair. I don't know if there's, trying to think if there was any pending items that came out of that for us, but.
The hazmat assessment, that's one thing.
There you go.
So, one thing that the LEPC has been involved at various levels in the past is, annually is when it should happen, and I say should, because sometimes these things, COVID was the last big one that kind of changed priorities in the state. Is the hazmat teams, that are supported, and they're actually gonna reach out, the state is gonna reach out to the hazmat teams that receive funding, that are deployable in disaster, as well as some of the teams that just have a hazmat team for their own municipality, they're gonna be assessed. So with that comes a couple different things. You know, if I put my fire chief hat back on, I would say that, you know, we always love an assessment. because it gives you that line in the sand on what you need. And for me, it's always a good justification. You know, if you approach it like, hey, I want to get all A's and we've got everything and we're the best, you're just fooling yourself and you're hurting yourself. To me, it was always a good justification to see really where you're at in a line of sand and say, we need more training on this, or we need more staffing, and we need X amount of equipment. So the assessment itself is definitely over 10 years old. So just the way that the teams operate and some of the trends and some of the threats, the assessment had to be changed a little bit. So working on the actual change of the assessment was one thing. Who is going to be assessed, which I just told you. If you've got any kind of hazmat moniker, I'm glad to see that the state did not just stay attached to doing the deployable teams, that they're going to assess everybody. And then the other big decision was in the past, we've done self-assessments, we've done an assessment with a representative from the state, and the state, just like everybody else, is understaffed and underpaid, and you've got over 50 teams that I can think of in the state. Not to mention, I think they're up to like 63 teams in the state if you're counting everybody. Not to mention that the assessment itself had to be changed, and you know, who's gonna do this stuff, and you wanna get it done in a timely fashion, so we could actually, you know, do something productive from the assessment. So it was decided that all the hazmat teams are gonna be looked at, and that was important. That was a big step because it has to go out to RFP. It was also decided by the CERT group that it is gonna go out to RFP to a private vendor. So there's only a couple of them out there that I can think of that have the scale that's gonna be able to do, was gonna be in the proposal. So the intent is, I think at the next meeting, you know, we should have some information on who the companies are that are gonna do the RFP. So if you're in the fire service and you have a hazmat team, just remember to embrace these assessments. And another thing that goes along with the assessment that will be evaluated is the equipment list. You know, as threats change, the equipment list should change. As technology changes, the list should change on kind of the requirements or the best practices. So that was the big thing from CERC that I wanted to talk about.
Nice.
Oh, so offshore hazmat. So this group has heard about it a couple times, and I know we got Coast Guard here, right? So a program that was in a pilot form, or even before pilot in a beta for over 10 years, was the offshore hazmat. One thing I'm proud to say is this group and the regional hazmat teams were able to kind of give it a bump a couple of years ago. That, along with Resolve's facility and doing the classes out there, it is now beyond pilot, and it is now going to be a class that is available to the hazmat team. So the idea behind it is that if something happens offshore, the Coast Guard might have an amount of time before all their fully equipped technicians can get on scene. And depending on where it is and what it is, and I hate to beat batteries to death, but we've seen some right offshore causing big problems for everybody involved. Basically to do a recon and any rescues if possible or if needed. Just get an incident profile on what's going on. And as you can imagine, if you take a bunch of people that are used to responding in a big red truck and a couple other ancillary vehicles and put them on a couple boats and tell them to go to another boat, we kind of lose our way. Now, if it was you know, an open console fishing boat, you know, it'd be all right. But that's not the case. So there were a lot of challenges that had to be, you know, worked through. And sadly, one sad note with this was widely supported by NOVA and is grant funded. So I know Chief Lamb was scheduled to go to NOVA because that funding with all the cuts was looking shaky. And I think that with the Coast Guard's endorsement and all the accolades and how well the program has been doing lately, I think it should survive it, but I don't want to speak out of turn. That's one thing I do need to call Chief Lamb and try to get an update on that funding. However, the program is beyond pilot. It is going to be an operable class, and it's going to be offered to all the hazmat agencies around the state. And it will be right here in our own backyard at Port Everglades. This is where the classroom and practicals happen at the Resolve facility there.
And I have a question.
Sure.
Why every single fire station is not training hazmat?
That's a great question. When you look at, number one, you have to evaluate, how much training goes into specialized in hazmat, and the equipment is a big thing. So just like with a lot of fire equipment, to mitigate a hazardous materials accident, or any type of release, you have a lot of specialized equipment, and all of that equipment, not only is it money, but it all expires. So a lot of the stuff that we use in the fire service and in public safety in general has expiration dates. So whether you use it or not, like we were just talking about that assessment,
How to replace it?
but it's not only the equipment, it's the amount of training and dedication. So it comes down to a staffing number and a risk benefit. So what happens in Broward County is of the 31 municipalities, there's 18 fire rescue agencies. So 4 of those fire rescue agencies have an ILA with the county. So that's Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, Sunrise, and BSO. So those 4 teams act as one regional team. So if anything happens as far as hazmat release in Broward County, and also a number of other technical rescues and those type of items, 2 teams show up. You have a primary team and a backup team, and the other teams would be available for a secondary incident. And when we have, let's say we have a tanker rollover on 95, which, you know, sometimes it happens every couple months. Sometimes we get lucky and go a couple of years without one. That's 2 teams to start off with, and a 3rd and 4th team, usually because it's 95 degrees out and 88% humidity on a good day. So we just cycle those teams through. And what happens then is it branches out, and we start talking to our partners in Palm Beach and in Miami-Dade to start covering the areas. But that's the short answer.
Chief, if you meet, if I can add, the hazmat certification have different levels.
Yeah, there are
We are
different
talking here at technical level, that you need hours of
That's a great
training.
point, Gabe.
Now you have like a awareness or initial 24-hour, 48 hours hazmat that everybody in the fire department has. So the first units on scene, they should know the basics until, for example, those can contain, they can do, what they cannot do is entry. Those for the technician level, was what we're talking right now.
It's a very good point, Gabe. To really put it very simply, there's 3 levels of hazardous materials certification. First is awareness. All firefighters are trained in awareness, the ability to recognize a hazardous material and to evacuate an area when needed. And then you have an operations level, which is typically defensive operations, so damming and diking, containing, and conducting like air monitoring and you know, clearing out the building.
Identification.
Most of the firefighters have that.
And then there's 100 and an additional 160 hours plus hands-on skills training, plus annual hospital certification and remediation for the technician level. And that's when you go offensive. Those are the ones you see in the hazmat suits going down range and actually going hands-on and mitigating the risk at the responsible.
That team have annual medical exams with all the special blood checking and everything
Yeah.
else, and it's a whole different level. So that's the team what we're talking
Heavy metal
about.
blood testing, and all of their certifications and their documents have to be on file for over 30 years. It's quite substantial. So when we talk about the special operations team, we're talking about that technician level.
But everybody else have the other certification that they can start working until the big
Yeah.
guys show up.
So in the state of Florida, the way it works is every firefighter, when you get certified, and it should continue once they get hired, but just to get your certification in the state of Florida, they're trained to awareness and operations level, which is 24 hours of hazmat.
You'll be happy to know the standards changing.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. What do you got for me,
The
Peter?
largest NFPA working group in existence currently.
Yeah, no,
So,
they met concurrently with the tech rescue people who I'm with, and I just know there's changes. And they're substantial, but keep an eye, because again, you're stakeholders, and if you don't agree with what's going on, now is the time to put your input in there, and anybody can do that.
Yeah, completely revamping the sort of task books,
It's gonna
qualifications.
change the life. The GPRs for skills.
Yeah, big time. And with a heavier focus on operations level too, I heard.
Yes.
Out there.
Hi, real quick, you made a good point about having 4 hazmat teams all at once, right? But is it still true that the guidance is to have at least two unseen, right?
Always two,
What-
so it's
always
a
two.
primary and about, there's 4 in the county,
Right,
right? So if there's an incident, that takes 2 of your teams away, right?
Right.
So you have a primary and a backup.
It's automatically dispatched,
So
even if it's something minimal.
and then obviously like, Miami-Dade has a few teams, right? And Palm Beach, so how many teams do they have, and do they still have to keep one in reserve in Palm
absolutely.
Beach?
So Palm
Right,
Beach itself, they have a large team. So if we talk about a team, so you might have one hazmat team, but you have enough personnel on that team to have, whether you call them groups, a north, south, east, west. So Palm Beach actually has 2 teams of their own, right? Plus they have Boca Del Rey. And then there's a couple of the smaller communities that have, so the way that it works, it's similar to the way we work it down here. They have an ILA with the Solid Waste Authority that helps give them funding. So
Right.
the way it works for our teams is that is with the Broward County Commission. So that funding goes to the 4 teams to definitely does not fund everything you do with special operations, but it helps do some cost recovery. And then, of course, there's cost recovery. Sometimes you get some money back from whoever is responsible for the release. But yeah, when I said 3 and 4 teams, that's at a large incident. The majority of incidents, you'll have 2 teams show up.
and how many in Miami-Dade?
Similar, just like Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade is a very dominant fire agency, right? So you're gonna have like Hialeah has hazmat capabilities, right? But Miami-Dade is gonna have the
Well,
lot.
Lambo can tell us a little bit better on how they run it
I
down.
know City of Miami has a team, so does
Yeah.
Dade County, and then Hialeah, we have only one team, but it's compromised of 9 techs. Cause the whole
Yeah.
station is a hazmat station.
Right.
So you have a rescue and engine and the hazmat truck. So for that I know of, I don't think Key Biscayne or Coral Gables or anything have teams like that.
Miami
I don't know
Beach
about
has
Monroe.
one now,
Was that,
Miami Beach.
not that I'm.
No,
aware
City of
of.
Miami.
City of Miami has
City of
a,
Miami has.
City of Miami-Dade County have the bigger, and I know Miami-Dade County has specific hazmat stations, but then they have hazmat vehicle, trucks all over the county. So
Yeah,
in different stations.
that's
they'll
how
have
they're
the
getting their
truck.
personnel for the primary and the backup.
Yeah, that's how they get together over there. We normally are just backup, like City of Miami, if they go do something, they'll alert us, we'll be the backup for City of Miami. And if anything happens, then we respond to their sites.
That's the way Broward
Right.
operates, it's slightly different, you kind of have 4 smaller teams operating as one large, right? Whereas like Palm Beach County, they're the dominant force with some subsidy teams almost, if you want to think about it,
Yeah.
like 2 team almost. Right, but yeah, so Broward County is kind of unique with our ILA, but it's been smooth and,
I thought you were gonna hit us with the hard question. Anybody here from Monroe?
yeah,
Okay, so
nice.
who wants to go to the Keys for a hazmat incident?
Yeah.
Nobody,
Nope, have fun, yeah.
right? So, I don't know if the Coast Guard has ever been asked to support, but I know Miami-Dade goes down to support. And some of the challenges and one of the reasons why we wanted to host down there, with a lot of changes in the infrastructure over the last couple of years on the fire side, I can speak to. There's been a real uptick in trying to be prepared for those hazmat incidents. And then they kind of hit a little bump in the road, some changes in personnel, and now they're back on. But it's just unique just because of the location. And you have a lot of volunteer departments and a couple paid departments and just the remote location. All of that is a really bad mix. Did you say you guys have ever gone to support anything in Monroe? I think it'd be kind of weird.
No, we
But-
have a sector in Key West that takes care of all of it.
Okay.
It's smaller, so we just they haven't had the need for us.
So
it's
the Coast
usually-
Guard, you have your own hazmat team.
We don't have a hazmat team, but we have an incident response division that they have, some basic hazmat training, but they won't be involved in any type of firefighting activity of cleanup or anything like that. It's more of a kind of, it's a federal requirement for us to be there and to not really manage because it's definitely pushed down to the local level, but to make sure that it's cleaned up. Yeah.
You haven't lived until your event's been federalized by the Coast Guard. It's cool for them. They've had some good pockets.
Yeah.
So you know what they say about hazmat? If it was not 3 hours or longer, it wasn't a real hazmat incident.
2 meals.
So is that a gap in incident accounts like on the road areas, especially with some restricted zones?
Definitely. So it's a couple of conversations that I would like to have with Monroe on some of the plans moving forward. It's not like this hasn't been brought up before. I'm just curious that, you know, from my level, I don't know where they're at in kind of stages. I know they have a brand new EOC down there and, you know, they're making some great strides. So I'm pretty curious to see what the strategic plan is.
And through the chair, so I also understand that, from my board chair, who is the mayor pro tem in Monroe County, Michelle Lincoln, that there is a new emergency management director that's going to be starting soon.
Oh, okay.
So,
We'll reach out.
because, it's Shannon, right? She is taking a position in Tampa, which is a very important one. So we're gonna have a new director there, so that'll be an opportunity to bring them here and then have a conversation. Everybody can help each other.
Very good. I got a little note of that for we'll reach out.
Yeah.
And
I'll
it'll
do
be
this
Corey in the interim who has participated in these meetings when we went to Monroe.
Yes, yes, I heard that was great.
Excellent. So with that, I think we have Dr. Gerardo's presentation, correct?
It's all cleaned up and here's the dog.
Here we go.
You want me at the podium or here?
Wherever you're more comfortable, I think the podium is nice, but you know, if you're comfortable sitting there, that's fine too.
Who's running the show?
Highlight,
You'll,
yes.
so,
You're fine there.
okay, fine. So,
We're gonna
Thank you.
introduce we got an introduction for you. So, Dr. Gerardo is the Chief Resilience Officer of Broward County Resilient Environment Department. And yes, we deal with hazmat. But she's gonna talk about a couple items, that we're all very familiar with. And there's definitely some overlay between what we're gonna talk about. Number one, one of the biggest things that has been a challenge even at some of these exercises and definitely on calls is, climate in the heat and what we're doing with our responders. So there's definitely, some overlay there and obviously, you know, resilience to storms and, you know, remember resilience is flourishing and not just recovery, right? So, what we hold near and dear to us here in South Florida is definitely very important for us to keep that established. And it definitely has an overlay when we talk about preventing hazmat releases. So the best incident is the one that never happens, right? So, that's why we thought it was very appropriate and we're glad that you're here. So, Dr. Gerardo is responsible for leading climate resilience and environmental planning initiatives for Broward County, Florida. Areas of particular focus include sea level rise adaptation, sustainable water source resource management, shoreline protection, coastal resource conservation, and clean energy products. She works extensively with internal and regional stakeholders. We're all about that. To advance countywide resilience planning informed by future conditions, scenarios, and fosters private-public partnerships key to large-scale initiatives. Current efforts involve advancement of a countywide resilience plan focused on infrastructure improvements, redevelopment strategies, and robust economic analysis. Dr. Gerardo has been a participant in the Ford County Southeast Florida Regional Climate Change Compact since its formation in 2009. Dr. Gerardo earned her PhD from the University of Miami in marine biology and fisheries. But with that,
Great. Thank you. So, Isabel invited a presentation, kind of similar to one that I'd made before our climate change task force a week or so ago. I'm not familiar with your group, but I can tell you're all wild experts, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna contribute that you don't already know. But I'll tell you a little bit more about the work that we are doing in Broward County, and the importance, I mean, you made the point about the collaborations and stakeholder engagement and partnerships. It's just so important that we're all saying the same thing repeatedly all the time and reinforcing, and I think bringing many more folks into the mold, because there are such vast exposures and so few people engaged, and it's really important. You know, none of these things are going away. So, kind of the overview. Yeah, I heard about the hazmat. I work most often and directly on the issues of sea level rise and compound flooding. So it's, you know, dealing with more than one factor at a time. It's rainfall and storm surge. It's supermoon and oh, I don't know, a tropical storm event.
we've seen, you maybe were even involved in some of the responses that we had in the last couple of years with extreme flooding. I mean, I lost my car in the event, and I know a lot of us that should know better were personally impacted in one way or another. So these types of things are requiring more in the way of preparation and response. And coupled with extreme heat, we know that's a compounding factor, and heat and #1 climate killer. And I was telling, I think Isabel, I know 2 people who've succumbed in their yards. And you have to, I do, yeah, one last week and, one a couple years before. So, is that.
With all the gear these folks wear.
Yeah, that, I mean, and I can't even imagine. So, so we have teams that are called upon to work in the field, to be of service under the most severe of conditions. And it sounds like you're all very well informed, but, again, kind of elevating that we're all talking about this all the time and raising alertness among our community of partners. So, the issue of flood will be an increasingly severe issue for all of us. We know that we're, flat landscape, subject to surge, elaborate water management systems, but none of that was designed to operate under the conditions of sea level today. I'll just say, despite efforts to maybe suggest that the rates aren't as high as they are, they're quite high. The Atlantic coast is experiencing a rate of rise that's higher than many other parts of the globe. There's about 5 to 7 inches of rise just since 2010. Those are not nominal changes, and our entire system operates almost entirely in Broward County on gravity, which means that if the water level is higher downstream than it used to be, everything moves more slowly when we're trying to drain. And when we have these extreme rainfall events, there simply isn't enough places to store the water, and you can't plan for 26 inches anyway, but acknowledging we are behind the curve in terms of where we need to be with our infrastructure, and the phenomena of rainfall intensification, it's realized nationwide. You can see the uptick in the total number of I think it's land affected by extreme rainfall on the graphic on the right. So it's happening nationwide, but we've had 3 severe events in just 18 months down here in Broward County: April 23, June of 24, December of 24, not to mention all the tropical storms. So again, a lot of these too are happening outside of our traditional wet season and hurricane season, which is important that we, and the extreme heat outside of the typical season. So, alerting the community that it's not just about these narrow windows. Next slide, please. So, but we do take advantage of the seasons to reinforce the importance of planning, and I don't think that everybody thinks about how these 3 seasons coincide: heat, hurricane, and wet. You're probably familiar that there's been a lot of work happening in Miami-Dade for a couple of years. We've been doing work for a couple of years, but we're really trying to capitalize on this raising of the alertness of not just planning for the hurricane season, but planning for our heat season, and that starts even earlier. Next slide, please. So just shown here is kind of reinforcing what I was saying a moment ago. The graphic on the left shows our annual average. It's the spatial distribution, our average rainfall on a given year in Broward County. We typically get about 58 inches of rain a year. You can see in the right-hand side that we've had many more years with these severe exceedances, and the hashed lines in the bottom show where we've had a single event, the contributions of a single event to that annual rainfall. And so, I mean, just imagining that volume, and again, we know what those flood implications are. And if we look at the rainfall over the last 32 years, 10 of the wettest events have occurred, I think, in the last 10 years, many in the last just several years. So again, we've got major tropical storms, major intense cloudburst events, and we know how to manage our system well in advance of tropical storms, but some of this is, what do you do? The communications and the management in these intense cloudbursts where you haven't had as much time to prepare. And so, again, you all probably know, but this issue of flood warnings and really starting to pay greater credence to those, where was before you thought, well, what does that really mean? We don't have flash floods in South Florida because our topography isn't set up, but we actually do. Next slide. And we know what it looks like. Next slide.
Go rescue people.
So in terms of heat, I'm not sure if you're all aware, but 2 years ago, our commission passed a resolution requesting that we partner in the pilot area of the National Weather Service out of Miami to ensure a lowered threshold for announcing heat advisories and warnings. And this was born largely, if not entirely, out of the effort of the heat task force in Miami-Dade that involved a lot of medical practitioners. And it was acknowledged that the thresholds used previously that were 3 degrees higher were not adequately protective of public health. And so these thresholds are temperature and humidity. It's heat index, so it's not absolute temperature, as you were pointing out, that humidity is such an aggravating factor. And so again, really announcing these thresholds or these warnings, delivering them at a lower temperature because we know public health is compromised at those lower conditions. And I would just say that we did outreach with students. Not every one of the students that was involved in this, it's an Eco Explorer group with the Museum of Discovery and Science, had an incident at school where kids had passed out on the field during bomb threats, where they were outside for 3 and 4 hours at a time with inadequate water and shade. And you're like, how is that acceptable? But think about increasingly these kids under these events. And that's just an example. You've got student athletes, you've got all these other things too, but this graphic shows a recognizable rise in the temperatures in Broward County. Next slide. This graphic, the red line is the average high. The red orange dots are record highs and the white dots are temperatures in 2024. And again, every year we hear it said every year is hotter than the last year. This is our local data. And we know that it's not going to regress. And the predictions are, you probably don't need me to talk about it extensively, but we were planning for, best case scenario, 1.5 degrees warming. That's gone. Now we're planning for 2 degrees Celsius warming. Risk rating entities are planning for 4. They're not even planning for 2. And this is by end of the century. These temperatures are like horrific when you think about what it's going to mean over the coming decades. Next slide. So here's a map of Broward County with the thermal distribution. You can see these very severe hot spots. A lot of these areas, the heavy pavement, not a lot of tree canopy, and a lack of overall water management infrastructure. Out west, you've got lots of canals and storage ponds and so forth. Look how much cooler it is near the Everglades. You have this core of Broward County where there's really no escaping that intensity. And again, if your crews are out there working in those areas with all that gear, this is about 14 degrees warmer than adjacent areas. And so you can have an advisory at 104, but it feels nothing like 104 in these areas. These areas are, those advisories I think are based upon the reading of the temperature station at the airport, which can be hot, but you also have coastal breezes there too. So yeah, the ramping up of temperature measured in Broward County, clearly the last 3 to 5 decades are well in their own category. And the graph on the table on the upper right, this responds to what I was sharing about the warming scenarios of 2 degrees versus higher scenarios that would look at 3 and 4 degrees. And you can see how many more days per year that you would be at these temperature thresholds. And again, 105 is just the that's the threshold for a advisory. 108 is now the temperature threshold for a warning. Next slide. So we're working, and many communities, not just Broward County, are working on these issues of extreme heat. Maricopa with Phoenix, Arizona are really leaders. The medical examiner is a very strong partner there. We're working with our medical examiner, trying to do more with the collection of heat-related illnesses, deaths and so forth. You need the information to better prepare. We don't want to always be responding to the incident, but working to prevent. Miami-Dade, I've already shared, we're borrowing a lot of information, and there's a lot of coordination that's occurring, especially between our two counties. Next slide. We've taken a comprehensive approach in the county with regards to resilience planning. We have about 2 decades of working on sea level rise explicitly, and then more in the way of compound flooding in the last 10 years. But we just finalized a countywide resilience plan focused on risk reduction, economics, and adaptation planning. Next slide. Just very briefly, it's involved some of the most complex hydrologic modeling that can be done, but know that FEMA uses our model for their FEMA flood mapping, and the South Florida Water Management District uses our model for their work, and every time anybody uses the model, they improve it and give it back. So this has been used 4 or 5 different times on major efforts. The importance of this here is the graphic on the far right was worst case scenario, 3 feet sea level rise, 100-year storm surge, 100-year rain, and super saturated system. Those conditions looked exactly like the conditions on the April 23 event. So we think that it can't flood 5 feet at the airport. And you think, well, this has to be exaggerated, 3 feet of flooding in a neighborhood. Actually, those worst case scenarios looked like the 1 in 1,000-year storm. So what that also says is we don't have to wait till 2070 to see conditions like this. When we get notice that it could be a bad event, that's what it could look like. And then we also mapped temperature thresholds through Broward County, found the 10 to 13 degree difference. Why does that matter? Because when we plan for adaptation, we want to be installing green infrastructure for flood management and heat mitigation, especially in that core of the county. Next slide. So, don't know if it's of interest to you, but again, these are the types of things that we need to be putting more into our system. If you're managing facilities and you're dealing with flooding in your lots and you're thinking about what does flood mitigation look like on our properties, more water storage, but it can be not just above ground, but below ground. So we actually have like car dealerships that have installed these crates. They're like milk cartons. Those can go underneath paved surfaces, and it creates storage. So you're not just pooling water on the ground or immediately discharging to a canal where there isn't room, but you can hold more water on site. And that's going to be part of our challenge moving forward, is trying to cascade those deliveries rather than supercharging systems all at once. Next slide. So we've got a countywide plan. Won't go into the details, but it's there. We're working on it. There's no funding, as everybody knows, at state and federal right now, but we're trying. Next slide. This information will be hosted on a website. I will send to Isabel the link to the viewer that you're going to see next. This allows that you can get into the website. Now there's lots of viewers that look at, presumed risk. This is based upon the hydrologic modeling and the model that we have in the county that accounts for all of the water management systems and how they work. It also allows you to query for an address. So if you have assets, if you have a fire station, if you have a staging area, and you're curious as to what that looks like under various scenarios, and you can add sea level rise, rain, and all these other things, you can look. We have some example viewers of what those flood elevations look like in 360 at different sites. And next slide. You can also go in and look at how flood mitigation is anticipated to be improved with implementation of the resilience plan. So it underscores, 1, why we want to implement the plan, and 2, what is the relative risk wherever you are once that's implemented, and does it require additional mitigation remediation? So some of this will be site specific, but hopefully you'll be able, and we do have critical assets in this viewer, which allows you to look at fire stations. And we're going to have I'm not sure if we're going to always have it pass protected, because so much of that, I'd be interested in your opinions. I mean, that information's pretty public, isn't it? I mean, where you have fire stations and so forth. I mean, it's, and it's part of state databases also. So anyway, that's available to you, and I hope you will use it. Next slide. So just the extreme heat coordination, letting you know that, and if you have ideas, this would be really helpful for us. But we're trying to, per the medical examiner, there is not consistency in temperature collection as like the fifth vital sign. All these other things are collected, but even, and so first responders who are responding to an incident aren't not blame, but oftentimes not collecting that information because they arrive on the scene and it's like, well, it's drug related, or they arrive on the scene and this is, something, but maybe temperature is a corollary and it exacerbates, so we need to know how many of these things are happening. Somebody passes away in a vehicle. Well, was it drug? They passed out, but did they, where was heat in the mix? So we need more collection of data consistently on the reporting. We have a difficult time getting information from the Department of Health, but that is where it's housed. We've reached out to the Medical Services Council. We're presenting next week to the Healthcare Practitioners Network. We've launched a Resilience Readiness Roadshow. It's about going more in, we've been working with the schools, the Red Cross, the municipalities, about the whole of thinking more holistically about combined flood and heat, and how do we bring more of this information to our communities, our teams. And we're preparing to launch a municipal pilot project next week with cities in Broward County that may or may not affect some of you, but where we have these hot spots. They're really concentrated in 10 to 12 cities. And so we're going to be working to better formalize cooling centers, maybe some discounted entry to pools and so forth that can be launched during the heat warnings when we know that threat is there. What can we do to help not have to respond to the incidents, but give somebody a temporary place for cooling? Maybe it already exists, but are we communicating that and promoting it adequately in the community so that they know they've got a safe place to go? Next spot. Also on the premature deaths in the Maricopa County, they're reporting where was AC present, but it was broken, or the AC was present, but it wasn't turned on because somebody couldn't afford the bill. And having more information about where economics and some other things contribute. This kind of captures the communities where we'll be working. Next slide. I already talked about the fact that we've lowered thresholds, so we'll move. And just working on data, move, working on website, I've covered it all, move. And but this next thing is really doing more comprehensively, and I think our emergency management department has been trying for some time, can't get the communities to share information on the cooling centers. Simply they're not doing it. So again, if you're in a position to help with that, we will be reaching out next week. We will have these 15 or so, maybe with 12, 15, it keeps growing cities. We do want to have a collective map. We'll be sending social media to the municipalities. If you think that there's a better opportunity for partnering on communications and so forth, have some ideas, we'd love to have those. And it's going to be a lot of sharing information, kind of lessons learned during this next year. It's supposed to be a hot year, and see how that goes. Next slide. Those are the cities that we're working with. You'll have the slides. Next slide. And some information. If you need heat, I think you probably have it because of your professions, but we are doing a lot on how to identify and respond to heat, how to get somebody cooled down quickly, and how to recognize, care for your team, more heat awareness amongst our teams, how to stay cool, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll close. Thank you.
Thank you. So through the chair, please, I want you to know that Dr. Hervado is not only a national speaker, but international as well. So it's a really great thing to have her here. She's a great resource, and a million people have tried to steal her. So, and one of the benefits also of the climate compact is that it is a 4-county compact. So information is shared, everybody learns. So if you're from Miami-Dade, they have done work. But this isn't a Broward example that I would expect could migrate to Palm Beach, down to Miami-Dade. I think it's a really important resource for our emergency responders.
I have so many takeaways, but I think the website, especially for emergency management and for first responders, is, like you mentioned, staging areas are, you're only as good as your plan, right? And a lot of these plans for the reunifications, different staging areas, maybe, after you run it through a model, may not be as good, or there might be better choices out there. So I'd like to make some contacts with that. And you're gonna give us the website that we
Yes.
can post,
Yes.
and we'll send that out.
Yeah, we can
to
follow
everybody.
up for this one.
And you're absolutely right about temperature. So what happens, I mean, there's a couple challenges with temperature from the fire rescue side of it. We've kind of encountered though. How are you gonna take it? Different municipalities or regions like to do it differently, what equipment you're using. And really the paramedics get, not that they don't recognize the heat emergencies down here, because I think we're all familiar with it. But maybe not necessarily with trying to get that temperature. And then there's also the communication between, if we do, you get a temperature and what the hospital caretakers think of our temperature and how we obtained it. But I know they're really good about thinking about temperature when you're talking about pediatrics or febrile seizures. Or some of the geriatrics that you might, hey, we found him in a car. But there's so many other incidents where it could be a factor, or, maybe not even the main point, but a contributing factor. That I think there's a lot of information that could be, or even just kind of culture changes.
Yes.
For us to add that in and be more diligent about a reliable temperature, would probably be smart. But great presentation. I'll never forget April 12th.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, well, Dave was ground zero for, he's a Fort Lauderdale chief.
So one of your best shot to collect this information, maybe it's not so much the fire departments, is the medical directors.
Yeah.
If you get the 4 or 5 medical directors that runs all the departments, all the EMS direction is coming from them.
Yeah.
All the changes in the protocols, all the changes in the data collection, all the changes, whatever you wanna do. That's the medical directors are the ones.
Thank you.
Not the chief or, I mean, it could be, but if it's coming from the medical director, that's it. It's what it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you do have a desire to get in contact with medical directors, if you're not already, Dr. Randy Katz, Dr. Sandra Lopez are at Hollywood quite often, at least.
Dr.
once or twice a month.
And then Dr. Roach. Dr.
Uh,
Roach would be.
Contacts or assistance with that. I don't know if they'll be at this practitioners network meeting next week. I don't know
Yeah.
who's going to be there. That'd be
We stop
lovely.
into Hollywood's training facility, my office, about 2 to 3 times a month with the for medical quality assurance and various other
We
meetings.
can get you in touch.
That would
I
be-
think that's the way to do it, is do it from the fire and the medical side to make a change. And they're all very progressive down here. They're very.
Yeah.
Very appropriate.
Excellent. Thank you.
Dr. Roach is
Randy Katz.
for Broward Sheriff,
That's Dr. Antetti.
and he's based in Broward Health.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Broward Health Medical Center,
Yeah.
16 Andrews.
Okay.
He's there,
Yeah,
and
and
he runs 3 departments.
And I had that emergency medical services meeting, but I don't know who's there and I don't know if they delegated somebody and does the information get back to them?
You
So-
can ask for a list of medical directors in Broward County.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh,
You go through them.
we can find that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
But-
you.
I have a
Yeah, but
question
especially
for
with a
you.
little prompting from our side, I think you can definitely gain some
Be
traction.
wonderful. Thank you.
What's your department's collaboration with Broward Emergency Management and the local mitigation strategy group?
Extensive. We
Okay.
write most of the resilience content for that. I present with Clay all the time.
Okay.
Clay's very involved in all of these efforts. We're working on a countywide resilience strategy. Clay's there with me. The pilot launch, I'm doing that in collaboration with Clay. The Resilience Roadshow in collaboration with Clay.
Okay, this county has a bunch of mitigation dollars following the Broward flood declaration,
Yes.
HMGP fund, so I just wanna make sure that we have these projects ready to go for those dollars.
Thank you so very much. So on that, yeah, I have a team member, Dr. Mount. I don't know if you would have come into contact with him, and he's working with Clay's team on that. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, again, thanks for the information.
Thank
It
you.
definitely hits home. And one of the things that we were looking at, trying to find the appropriate funding for is, cooling trailers, just
Yes.
for even for the training events and exercises. At Heat Shield, it's in the name. We had a bunch of firefighters that, had to cycle through some cooling and get IVs and everything before they can get back to shift. And so you never want training to be that realistic, where you have to treat your firefighters. But unfortunately, it's just kind of the name of the game. And remember, I'm so glad you talk a lot about heat index, because we always, you have to combine the temperature with the humidity, especially down here, to get a true value on how it's affecting you. And that's something that we deal with fire training all the time. It's literally in our paperwork. We have to do calculations on heat index and kind of give everybody a, hey, guess what? It's extreme danger today.
Every day.
And, you know, really, what does that mean? It doesn't mean the training is going to be called off. It just means that you're supposed to hydrate, you're supposed to cycle through. It's just an awareness thing, but I think some work needs to be done in that area as well. So with that, again, thank you, and thank you to Shannon. I'm sure she probably had to get back to work. But we definitely have some time for any member comments. Remember, you don't have to think about it today, but anything that we can do to kind of continue on this trend of some high profile projects, some engagement, and some very valuable things. You know, it happened to be for all the peak software was the big project for the HMEP funds, which I can tell you was in the very beginning was a challenge just because of the way that HMEP funds are supposed to be distributed to get that software, because it could be used for training and on incidents. But it was probably one of the most valuable things that we've done for the hazmat teams, and it was made available to all the hazmat teams in Broward, Dade, and Monroe counties. And again, they're doing the training on it now. They'll do some in-person training, and that's a lot of benefit to the responders that show up. Basically, this software tells them some mitigation strategies, the proper PPE, which some of this they should know, but it's a reassurance. But then you have a lot of the pluming and, you know, some of the do's and don'ts on the mitigation there is a huge help to these teams, especially when you may be faced with an incident with multiple chemical releases or the potential for a few different releases and how they're going to react with each other. It's very good software. But anyway, we want to keep on this trend, and we definitely want to do some things that are maybe already we've done some things that the other LEPCs aren't doing, but let's keep it up. And anything else that you guys have for suggestions, if you don't have the ideas now, please get with us in the near future, and we'll put it on the books to make it an initiative. So we have any member comments? Questions?
Yeah, you mentioned before about membership.
Yep.
Where do you think that you're low on membership, or what areas do you want to gain membership?
Miami-Dade.
Did you say Miami-Dade? Well, we've got a lot of fire rescue, let's put it that way. It'd be good to have some faces, I guess, for Miami, Monroe County. I think you're talking about more the categories.
Yeah, like the facilities versus the cities or
It's always
municipalities.
good to have more facilities. We've got a few facilities showing up as members. And what's the big one we're looking for? Media?
Media is one, so
Yeah.
through the chair, there's an LEPC membership list in your meeting package, and it clearly indicates where there are vacancies. And of course, I guess within any category, you can always add additional representatives if you're short. But media, communications, that would be very good.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest values of just having a bigger group is just trying to get the word out that number one, that we exist and what we're doing. Because it's always, I can tell you, I still cross fire chiefs that have no idea what we do. And one of the big things that we're doing is trying to get them training to all the different hazmat responders and just information to the teams on what the facilities have. So both from a facility side and from the public safety side, there just needs to be more awareness. So that's why the media is an important thing. But I think all of us just giving a little bit more outreach. And it's not even just the, whether it's a vacancy or a non-vacancy in an area, it's the participation. And sometimes it's hard to go, well, how do I equate this meeting into something I could do? And that's why I say no idea is a bad idea. Let's just kind of brainstorm and work it off from there.
Right, well, I think that if you have like maybe a brochure or like here's your pitch, for that, the inspectors that go out to visit these sites, they know inside and out which facilities really need some more guidance, or the bigger facilities with more hazardous chemicals that we can target them, when we do the inspections.
Sure.
So, and I'm sure the fire rescue, they go out as well. So something that, to kind of when it has that, make that part of the inspection and, as a part of our checklist, reach out to the LEPC,
I've got just a thing for you. I'm gonna get you a copy of the presentation. So one of our fire inspectors actually made a class, and as part of her doctorate, kind of informing people what the LEPC is, what the real goal was for the fire inspector and public safety inspectors, kind of how the coordination works with the county, with the fire side, the fire rescue side, and from the federal regulation side, and how they all interlock. So I think just giving some awareness level to the inspectors on that side. And the PowerPoint
Fire
presentation.
inspectors is.
To piggyback on your comments, you're right on target. We were able, in another community in a different part of the world, we're able to leverage that to the point where we would get special experts that are essentially fixed facility specialists in the training hierarchy. And all of a sudden, you could put them on call, and if you had a gas cylinder, needed a piece of specific equipment,
Yeah.
they, as part of the LEPC, had a memorandum of understanding to respond with those resources as requested.
Yeah.
So there's stuff in the community that we could take advantage of, all of us, that we just need to track down and liaise with. And usually they're very willing to do that.
That's great. I think this would be a great venue for different facilities that are having some of the same challenges or issues to come together. Because as an inspector, I'm just dealing with one facility at a time, and I can just say, oh, you know, my perspective, I can't name the facility, but this is the way they do it there to try to help them out. But maybe, you know, say, okay, you attend the meeting, then, you know, it'd be a good avenue for them to get together to, you know, collaborate on.
Even just the random contacts and networking that happens when we say hello or goodbye or talk to people here solves a lot of problems, I think.
The meeting after the meeting.
And I know I was working on this with Charlene and I will work with it with Haley, but getting emergency management more to the front of the table on this group and not just sitting in the background. Then this is a hazmat group, this is a fire rescue group. No, this is a public safety group, this is a whole community group. And kind of rebranding that they should be participating in this as well.
Through the chair, please.
Yes.
Question. So, I want you to know the next time you come for a meeting, everybody's gonna have a table. So I don't need, no, I don't, I'm actually surprised that we didn't do that for you already, but you will have it. And so if you could help me, I don't know your name.
That's Claudia.
So, oh, yes, it is Claudia. I see,
The
I
other thing-
remember you from the internet now.
Yes.
So Claudia.
This is me in real life.
And then, the gentleman from Broward County.
Steve Hirschenhorn.
The other benefit to this is the fundraising, because there's a lot of stuff that you can't get when grants dry up. Or they get pulled away or put back, none of our government would ever do that. A lot of times, private industry, if they see the need, will rise to the occasion and write a check to help fill the need that they're creating by putting that risk in the community. But we need to approach them proactively and properly to get that.
And of course, as Claudia's been a big advocate for, is eliminating redundancy, you know, tear down the silos so that we're not tackling the
That's
same
good,
thing
we're
in
all
three
about
different
that.
areas. We can all get together, do it once, do it right, maybe even to a larger, more comprehensive scale, with better results that are more widespread in the industry.
And I will say, Claudia, you have a great point, especially when it comes to emergency management and just kind of through my career path and being involved and just seeing the big picture with emergency management. It's unbelievable the amount of collaboration that needs to happen and that does happen. And I will say, if Claire Amy's on, definitely, big supporters of the LEPC and have been engaged and also engaged in the NEP. So in Broward County, we do have a lot of engagement, but remember, this region is a lot more than Broward
I
County,
know,
right?
and I love the
then
idea of
there's just
moving it
1 to 10
around and
regions.
then having other people host and hopefully it doesn't become, you know, it is a regional,
Yes,
meeting.
Yeah.
We need regional
it's tough.
input, I know.
It's tough for, it's hard enough to get down. I get the pleasure of going to Miami a couple times a week. Because my child attends school down there. So we kind of split those duties. So I get it. And then Monroe, of course, why would you ever want to leave? That's why we had to go down there once, but we can't go down there all the time.
Well, logistically, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and we are seeing more participation, but I think we need to continue on the trend.
And Dan and
Steve, I think it's a
Miami-Dade
great idea.
has his hand up.
Outreach.
Okay, yes, I
Sure.
have,
He might have
Mr. Scarborough.
something to say.
So if you
for what I
have a
said.
facility that you wanna lend to us, but understand, then I'm gonna need your staff also to set up the audio, the recording.
Yeah, we do have to do a webcast.
All that sort of thing. So I'm not trying to put an obstacle. We have a lot of experience in doing rotating meetings. That's what we do as a regional board. But it's a challenging undertaking. So if we do come, please show up. This is what I would say. So, do you want to go to Mr. Scarborough?
Yes.
Fire away, Dan.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. Dan Scarborough, Miami-Dade County Emergency Management. I thought this would be a good time for me to mention that we have been working with DHS to schedule a 2-day chem prep workshop down at our EOC on October 15th and 16th. The first day is going to be focusing on deter, detect, and disrupt, while the second day will be integrated recognition and medical countermeasures deployment. So the audience may vary a little bit between the 2 days. We're looking for somewhere between 40 to 60 attendees. And it would be great to have LEPC representation both at the workshops, but also in the planning meetings. We're looking at maybe holding the initial planning meeting about the 3rd week of June. And again, it would be very helpful to add, your expertise to the planning of these workshops so we could get the most value out of them. Because, like you said, a lot of you do have to, make that trek down here to Miami-Dade, but it's a very good opportunity, given the fact that we have World Cup. Everything seems to be around, World Cup planning these days. So the scenario for each of the days may have a maybe a special event oriented or focus, but we do have some leeway there, and would really happy to have you to provide your recommendations. So if anybody's interested in being part of the planning team, you could reach out to me. I'll put my email or contact information in the chat. But yeah, that's all I wanted to mention. And it's, another opportunity to have some folks who aren't that exposed to the LEPC to get involved, because we're looking at this as being a regional workshop. So just wanted to mention that, and thank you for your time.
Dan, are you gonna be present for the FIFA, the lasso tabletop exercise on the 29th
Yes.
this month?
Yes, I'll be there.
Of the city of Hollywood's EOC, and then we have some other fire representatives from Hollywood. So I'll see you down there. We'll brainstorm a little bit more.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to definitely keep me informed on that, and I'll reach out to you, Dan. And I think Keila had a question on target audience. It is emergency management, so I think it's kind of all stakeholders, the target audience for the deter, detect, and disrupt.
Yes, it is. And then this is where we could get your recommendations as to the audience. Or should we be focusing on boots on the ground, or the decision makers, or a mixture of both? So again, we have some flexibility there and would like your input.
Excellent. Well, if I can make it there, I'll check the calendar, but it's something I'm definitely interested in myself. And of course, Brian's involved in emergency management as well for the city of Hollywood and fire rescue. So we'll definitely get some representation down there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sounds awesome.
Excellent. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. I am pleased. Anything else? All right, we should. I don't know if we have anyone out there. Oh, hey.
Couple things. This is mainly if we have any maritime partners, but our state, county, for sure, Homeport went away. So if you used Homeport to get updates for port condition changes, bridge closures, marine safety broadcasts, anything related to permitting on the water, Homeport's gone, so maybe NABCEN is gonna pick it up, but right now it's kind of in limbo, so it's not really great going into hurricane season with no way to push down port condition changes. More to come on that. There is a PCT call for those partners coming up next week. Two, our area committee meeting is gonna be tentatively for July 15th. Location to be determined. So if you are involved in any of that, that's coastal oil spills, hazmat. Hopefully July 15th, pending our new captain of the port's availability. We have a new captain, Captain Florio. If you knew our deputy, he just fleeted up into the captain role. And then lastly, this is just kind of a shame, actually second to last, shameless plug. We are looking for a new continuity of operations location in our south area. Our primary is Indian River State College, but it's 2 hours away. So we are literally on an island in between Miami and Miami Beach, and if there is a Cat 2 or above, we have to leave. The place that we had in Miami-Dade, we can no longer use. So we're looking for a new space. Doesn't matter if it's hot, cold, warm. Holds 20 to 30 people for up to 2 weeks. I think that's the only requirements really.
How many?
20 to 30, just our IMT.
Okay.
For the 2 weeks until we can reconstitute. That's kind of like our reconstitution line, 10 days to 2 weeks for
Okay.
GSA to find us a new permanent location, assuming that building just goes away, which
Yeah, I love that Indian River facility, but I would say that's quite a stone's throw away from.
yeah, it's very difficult for us to relocate there, right? So we don't have a great place here, between Miami, Broward and Palm Beach. That would be ideal. So we found that state colleges and our community colleges are our best partners. I don't think we have any online on this call. But if anybody knows of anything or hears of anything, or just might have like an obscure place that say, hey, check with these people, that would be great.
I have an idea that we can talk about offline, and I'll see where we go with it.
Okay. And then one last thing, I don't know if everybody's aware, probably not, but in Belgium last month, they had a RoRo, which is a roll-on, roll-off vessel where like vehicle transport, there was a EV fire. So if you're interested in any of that, like the Coast Guard is heightened because of things that have happened. They just did a huge exercise in Brunswick because that's where that's our biggest port for RoRos. But in Belgium, they had a fire, and it was really interesting how they were able to contain that with like CO2 and closing compartments and nitrogen and all kinds of crazy stuff. So there's a good read on it. If you just Google it, you'll see it.
Okay.
I think that's everything I have now. Any questions?
Isabel has something for you.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
sure. So it would be very helpful if you could send us specifications that you're looking for your continuity of operations
I will send that to
facility.
you.
And then we can share it with the counties.
Perfect.
And see if they have any facilities that might be helpful too.
Thank you. I'll send it to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Oh, and I just want to remind everyone, Claudia has her Region 10 meeting coming up pretty soon. So it's actually going to be hosted at FDOT, the District 6 headquarters, which is by
great.
Dolphin Mall. I know we talked about hosting a meeting maybe, so our EOC is like, what do you say, like 70% done, right? We're just waiting for a few deliveries, but you guys can check out the area and at least like get an idea of like if you want to host a meeting there or use our auditorium. We can also do trainings. Frank's our district safety, district DM. We are attending the exercise next week.
Excellent.
I'm the player, he's the observer, so he's gonna have more fun than me. But if you guys want to pop in, you know, like I said, like, and like kind of like spitball some ideas like that will be available.
And I know we discussed hosting a meeting with the previous coordinator,
Yeah, like,
so we can get back on track with that as well.
yeah, cause I was telling her not this one, cause like, you know, like he could tell you, like, I have like the tables there, but I'm still waiting for a workstation, but I think the most exciting thing for us is like, we got a huge video wall, so you know how those video walls are really on, it's like, it's so much, there's just this great stuff to have in a meeting space, so it's gonna be really nice. So this is our, fortunately, our facility is also Cat 2, so it can't help you. Yeah. Working on the Cat 5 one still. You know.
But to piggyback off of Crystal, the LEPC coordinator is always invited to that meeting as well as you all. I'll send you the invite. But I think it'd be a great opportunity. It's the EMs, the county EMs is the main audience. So I think this would be a great time to remind them what this group is doing, where they can be involved, what, you know, that collaboration, and then Laura talking about universities also reminded me, there is a higher ed emergency management regional group that all the universities, and I think maybe we haven't tapped into possibly their involvement in this group. They all have research facilities and different hazmat materials and things on all of their campuses dealing with, you know, the research side or just what's going on in some of these campuses. So I think maybe that's an avenue to possibly that I'm willing to tap to see if they would also want to be involved in this group more. I have a bunch of ERGs in my car if anyone needs one.
We have a few holidays.
They're 2025 ones. So if anyone needs some, I would love to get those out of my car. And then just one last plug is our Florida Division of Emergency Management Conference is June 9th through the 13th in Orlando. There's a lot of things going on at that conference. We have a Human Services Summit. We have a logistics showcase. So all of the deployable assets, commodities, teams you can request from the state following a major disaster or hurricanes such as that. We're gonna have like an outside display of like MCV giant equipment, and then we're gonna have like an indoor display of, you know, meeting our incident management team or the regional teams, things like that. All of that is on our website, floridadisaster.org. And then we have an events tab, and then a lot of these sessions are virtual. I know a lot of things right now, everyone has a spending freeze right now. So we have a lot of them virtual if you're not allowed to travel, if you're not allowed to get hotels. Look at the curriculum. There's a lot of courses for like your legal departments of your cities and counties and departments of like what they should be thinking about following a disaster. A lot of professional development and all phases of emergency management specialty type classes. But I just wanted to plug that away. June 9th through the 13th in Orlando. All of the info on our website. You can register. We have room blocks at 2 different hotels in Orlando. And then, like I said, a lot of the sessions can be done virtually.
Oh, yeah, so this reminded me. At our meeting on the 6th, I will have construction PIO there. So if you guys are curious what's going on Golden Glades, they're there to answer all your questions.
Oh, wonderful.
They take complaints. Yes. PIO, it's not me.
Can we bribe them with donuts or something?
Yeah, it's June 6th.
That's what I was gonna ask, like,
CEO
so perfect.
meeting. So I'm gonna have construction PIO because it's gonna impact World Cup. It's gonna impact like your evacuations. It impacts a lot. So we have 3 different projects they're gonna be talking on. They're gonna have tables there. So it's the I-395, that cool looking bridge. Eventually it'll light up and be nice. Okeechobee, and then the monster GG1.
Yeah.
As I said, but that one's really close to your county line here, and
Yes.
that's a huge impact to
Yes.
Broward County.
And we will talk Club Cup and World Cup at that meeting too.
Yeah.
So Miami and Broward and Palm Beach is also invited to the meeting. Can kind of talk about what activities is going on between the matches, the fan fest, the watch parties,
Okay. Okay.
all of the above.
It's almost like the original Region 7, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're calling it 10, but it's 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never, with the region change, I never kicked out Palm Beach.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's no timeline when we went from the 7 regions to the 10 regions, right? So on the EM side, and you have 10 regions, but when you look at the other side, you look at RDSTF and everything else, and from the Leo side, there's still only 7 regions. So until we really align them, all you did is just add a moniker. So either you're 10 or you're 7, and if you're Palm Beach, just pick a number.
For FDOT, we will never align, all right? So we're District 6, Miami and Broward, Miami and Monroe, District 4 is Broward County. We will never align, but we talk well together. You know?
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about all the time. It's just trying to get the communication and the collaboration out there. Whatever numbers they want to call us.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting those communications in order, put a face to whoever's behind the email and actually have some conversations before something happens. The first time you meet, not like during the incident. It's always. I don't know if there's any citizens out there, but we're supposed to do citizens comments. Going once. Going twice. Hang on. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'm second.
There you go. Excellent. So with two presentations, what time is it? 11:55, under 12 o'clock.
Nice.
And a lot of good discussion. So
Yeah,
everybody,
coming in first.
honestly, this is
How do
what
you-
I am very glad to see in the meeting is participation and kind of offering collaboration and going to each other's meetings. That's what this is all about. I can tell you that there's been a huge change over my tenure from when I started attending LEPC meetings, when I was, still riding on the back of a fire truck till now. Just a whole different change in the amount of collaboration and everything that gets done. So I'm appreciative and I think it makes all of us better. So, thank you all. Oh, yeah, let's do official.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Back to the room.